Hello, folks. C.W. Johnson Jr. here. It is October 23rd, 2018. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and I apologize. There have been this is what you know, a few things have been going on. I've gotten a new job at a retail store that is a depot for home supplies where they sell plumbing, electrical, gardening supplies, freight there. It's a nice job, I like it. Keeps me busy. A lot of physical exercise with it. Anyway, tell you some of the stuff I've been reading, some of the stuff I've been watching. Something that happened on this day back in the 1950s, I believe it was the Hungarian Revolution began against the Soviet Union, and of course, like pretty much every resistance to the Soviet Union, it got crushed because the West wasn't willing to back it. We wanted to keep the Cold War cold and not turn it too hot. But the West certainly did support the Hungarian people emotionally and spiritually. In fact, the Hungarian freedom fighter, a nameless man in the street of Budapest with a machine gun, was named Man of the Year that year. And just with that in mind, I went and saw First Man, Ryan Gosling's biopic about Neil Armstrong the other day, and honestly, it was really well made. The cinematography was great, the acting was great. One of the problems with the cinematography was the handheld didn't quite always, it blurred out sometimes during some of the scenes where it didn't seem like it needed to. Where like guys were sitting around their patios talking and the actors were leaning forward, it would blur out. It was really distracting. Really didn't feel like it added to the story that much. But the cinematography overall was great. The music was great. The acting was great. But the story was just kind of flat. And it was really disappointing because there's a lot of hoopla about the flag planting being left out. Which I understand, since Neil wasn't the one that planted it. I believe it was Buzz Aldrin that planted it on the moon. So I can understand not having it in because of that, because the movie was about Neil Armstrong and not the actual moon landing. But the story really didn't, it seemed really driftless, because there's all these questions about, is the space program worth it, tax dollars, and it was worth it because we were in a Cold War with the Soviet Union. It was America, the leader of the free world in that day, against the leader of the tyrannical world, the communists, the socialists, the SSSR. And other than a few, the Russians are doing this, we need to catch up with them scenes, there really wasn't a sense of urgency on why this was a space race. So in leaving, and there are all these questions whether the program is worth it, cost of taxpayer dollars and lives. And you have a scene where this guy singing about a song that didn't come out until the early 70s, but they had him singing like 1968 about I'll be still paying my doctor bills because I'm a black guy when Whitey's on the moon. And they had all that in there, and it really didn't make much sense to have it in there because it didn't really give us the sense, the urgency, the point of why we were going to the moon in the first place, and that was the triumph of freedom, of a free nation, individual rights, over the Soviet Union where the individual was subject to the state. So by leaving that out, and by leaving sure there was a lot of American flags in the movie, but by leaving out the planting of the flag on the moon was just a bigger symptom of what the problem with the movie was it didn't know why we were going to the moon in the first place. They totally left that out. That's why America is to be praised for being the first nation on the moon, because it meant we won the space race against tyranny. We defeated tyranny in that cold part of the Cold War, that front on the Cold War. We won against socialism, against communism, against the divine rights of kings, so to speak, over the individual. And by leaving that out, a movie by Canadians and elitists in Hollywood, they totally lost the heart of why the space race was an important part of history, and why landing on the moon was a great triumph, and why it was important, why we need to do it. Sure, I enjoyed the film. I really liked it. There were a couple parts where it was dull at sometimes, Honestly, I'm struggling with seasonal affective disorder right now, and there are a couple times I just go kill myself because it's so dull. But I enjoyed the movie. I'm, I'm kind of weird. I like art house movies, which are kind of dull. Um, but you're talking about the space race. It could have been more exciting. I enjoy the juxtaposition of personal life with a big part of history going on at the same time. But at the same time, they totally lost the entire. They didn't know why they were going to the moon. It was like making a movie about World War II and not including the Nazis. So, while I do highly recommend you go see it on the big screen because it needs to be seen on the big screen to be fully enjoyed. Just go in knowing what you're going into. I saw people get up and leave the theater because the story had no real direction other than we know we're going to land on the moon. Because the filmmakers left out the essential element of the story was we were in a space race against tyranny. So I give it a 4 out of 5. It'll definitely deserve some Oscar nominations come around Oscar season. So go see it then. But it was just it's one of the problems we see with a lot of when elitist liberals, for lack of a better word, make movies about American history and they don't understand the importance of it. The importance of it, freedom won. Freedom won over the socialist policies that we have people like Cortez and Sanders vouching that our government needs to take steps towards right now. And I'm sorry, but First Man bombed because it bombed the story, the central element. Anyway, so that was my rant about First Man. Like, I enjoyed it, but I did not like the fact it was so driftless. So someone that I've been reading, The Life of William Calper by Thomas Wright, working on a screenplay right now about this 17th, 18th century poet. A remarkable story. He suffered with depression, much like a lot of us do today, and yet he was able to overcome it with the beauty of poetry, nature, God's love, and friendships. I've been listening to Inside the Army of ISIS, Inside the Army of Terror by Michael Hesse and Hessen. Boy, things are a mess over there in uh, Syria right now. It's basically all the backstabbing of Game of Thrones in real life with modern weapons. And ISIS is probably the closest thing we've had to real Nazis right in world history, in recent world history. So you can be skeptical about America policing the world, but we need to do something about ISIS. Another audiobook I've been listening to about ISIS is Black Flags, The Rise of ISIS by Toby Warwick. It's basically a biography about Zarqawi, who started ISIS, and there's a lot of stuff that went over in Iraq that the media did not tell us about. Like, a lot of the insurgents weren't exactly Iraqis. They were people coming in to fight Americans. There was a civil war going on between the Shiites and the Sunnis, and there was a lot of that going on that the media didn't tell us. They would just tell us, oh, a bunch of people died today. They didn't tell us what was going on, why we were there, and what we need to be doing. And it was a mess, but this book's a very eye-opening book about the war on terror in Iraq. Reading The Two Lives of Sally Miller, A Case of Mistaken Racial Identity in Antebellum New Orleans, Carol Wilson. It's sort of an abbreviated version of The Lost German Slave Girl by John Bailey, but it has a lot of interesting information. It gives a lot of more detailed about the culture, the political situation, the legal situation of slavery, the history of German immigration to America and New Orleans in the early 19th century. So it's a very fascinating book. Great chapter on white slavery. So I definitely want to check out. And one book I cannot recommend to you highly enough is Addicted to Outrage: How Thinking Like a Recovering Addict Can Heal the Country by Glenn Beck. There's a lot about Glenn Beck that I disagree with, but overall I have to say this is a book that every American needs to read right now. I don't agree with everything in it, but he's definitely correct that we are addicted to arguing with each other and not listening to each other, shouting. We spend we waste all day online arguing with people that we'll never meet about sometimes about things that aren't really important, like the color of dresses. And basically, he's telling us, we need to return to civility. We need to return to our core principles, what it means to be American, what it means individual freedom, and ideas like that. And I definitely recommend this book. I don't agree with everything in it, but it's definitely one that every American should be reading right now. So that's what I've been reading, watching. Good movie I watched was Gosnell, the Trial of the World's Greatest Killer. No, Gosnell, the Trial of America's Biggest Serial Killer. And boy, that movie was eye-opening. I highly recommend it. Great performances from the lead actors. Obviously, it was a pro-life. People who funded it, produced it, were pro-life, but it does not push the message. And I would say it's probably the Schindler's List of movies about abortion, because Gosnell is very much a suave, sophisticated guy who plays piano while the police are investigating his basement for possible murders and things like that, and drug use. And there was low budget, and there were a couple times, the camera would focus out, and it would focus in on something, everything else would be blurred out, which obviously that was because it was a low budget film, but it was similar to what I said about First Man. It was kind of distracting because it really didn't add much to the story. So, but I definitely really recommend you go see that one, because there's been a blackout on it by the media, by the movie reviewers, and it was really hard to get made. They went through a lot of loopholes to get this movie made. It definitely needs to be seen. Great performance, great directing. It doesn't push the message, it shows, doesn't tell. And it's a very sobering film, so I definitely recommend you go see it. Eye-opening too. So this has been C.W. Johnson. That's been going on. Hope y'all have a great day. Don't forget to vote in November, and God bless. God bless America too.